In this video we're going to look at how to tackle task 6, and task 6 is about finding the marks for one subject and then displaying them in ascending order of marks. This problem is quite involved, so it really helps to plan ahead and think about how you're going to solve it. So one thing you need to keep in mind when you're working through this is that we need to sort it according to the marks and not according to the student ID. We need to take data out from the whole list, so we just have the ID for students and just the marks for one subject. And we're going to start off by just picking one subject, which is the comp sci marks, and working with that, because that helps to get a working solution before we make it more general. The scores are actually strings. That's how they're stored in the list at the moment. So we need to change them into ints, otherwise our sort won't work. We can sort the marks, or we need to sort the marks into ascending order. So we have to have the lowest mark first and then the highest mark at the end. And once we've got that bit working, then we're going to make our solution more general, and then we'll write a function to basically encapsulate this task so it works for any subject. So one thing I'm going to mention before we actually start writing the solution for it is that there are many ways to solve sorting tasks, and you'll see lots of examples if you go on the internet of using lots of different types of functions and to generate the key that you're going to sort on. But we can tackle this task by just thinking very carefully about how the data is structured when we extract it. Let's just remind ourselves of how the data is written. So we have a column for student ID which contains all of the student IDs, and then the English marks are in the first column, and then the second column has got maths marks and science marks, and then the computer science marks are in the in the fifth column, sorry, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but because Python indexes from 0, then the comp sci column number will be 4. So that's what we're going to do, and we can check the first comp sci mark here, and that's so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so JMD1 gets 40. So that's what we're looking to extract. So we're going to do this exactly as we have completed the solution for getting hold of a student, is that we're going to go through each list, each element, and then pick out just the subject that we need. So we're going to use a for loop, because for loops are great for that. I already have my student grades read into RAM and assigned to a variable called data, so we can just say for stu, so you can have this as any variable name that you want. So for stu in data, so first of all we'll just print out what we want. So let's just print out and see whether this works. What we'd like printed out is the print function which takes an argument. So stu the student ID followed by a stu4, which is the computer science marks. Okay, so let's make sure that that works. And so here we go. I've got student ID and I've just picked out the computer science marks. So they print, but I need to be able to have them in a format where I can put the lowest mark at the top, or the person who got the lowest mark at the top, and then the highest mark in the bottom of this particular list. So one way of doing this, again this is just a solution, is we can add these elements to a list, and then we can sort the list. We can run a sort function on the list. So let's have a look at how we might do that. So I'm going to start off with an empty list called subject. So this is how I make an empty list, and then every time through the for loop what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two elements to subject using the append method. So I want to be able to say, well, append these to subject. So I want to say something like this, subject.append these two elements, but append takes only one argument. So if I run this, it's going to give me an error, and it says append takes exactly one argument to given, which means I have given it two values here and it's only expecting one. So let's remedy that. Let's do something like this. Let's just say, well, my variable name s equals those two elements. So let's just say I want st0 and st4. So those are the elements I want, and then I want to append those to s. Okay, let's see whether that gets us closer to a solution. So I haven't got an error this time. Let's have a look at what's in subject. Ah, this is great. So subject now has given me just the student IDs and the marks. And as you can see, the marks have got quotes around them. The marks are strings. So we need to convert these into ints. And the other thing you'll notice is instead of being a list of lists, this is now a list of tuples, because they've got circular brackets around them. And for our purposes, because we're just reading the data, we're not making any changes to it, this is a perfectly acceptable data structure for what we need to do, what we need to achieve. So let's go ahead and make these into an int, and that's just straightforward. Every time through the for loop you come across these, convert it into an int, assign it to s along with stu, and then append it. So let's run that, and I'll get another error, and this time the error is telling me that I cannot change something into an int. Okay, I'm sending int an invalid argument. So let's have a look at what's going on. So what we'll notice is the first element 0 of this list is full of headings. So it's got student ID and then it's got these headings. So the first time through the for loop, it's taking st0, which is just student ID, this, and that's fine. And then what it's trying to do is it's taking computer science, which is the fourth element, and it's trying to, or element at position 4 of the index, and it's trying to convert that into an int, but it can't. It can't convert comp sci into an int, but it can convert these things into an int. So an easy fix for this, rather than a huge panic, is we can say, okay, we'll just miss out 0 and start counting from 1. And if we miss out 0, we will eliminate this, and then when this goes through the for loop, it will remove, it will have removed comp sci, and the int will work for all of the other values that exist. So how do we do that? Well, we use slicing, and I can do that straight in my for loop here, and I can say, well, start from 1 and then go all the way to the end. So that's the only change I need to do. This is list slicing. You've probably done lots of exercises on slicing lists. And if I run this now, so let's scroll down to the bottom, execute the file, so no error this time. And now if I look at subject, what's in there? Oh, that's great. And what's different is it's now converted, it's got rid of the first set of tuples, which just said student ID and comp sci, and it's converted every one of these strings into an int, which is fantastic. So the reason we are using this, we've had to put it into a list, is because we can't sort otherwise. So we could just use the sorted function and pass in subject, or we can do subject.sort. Either of those are valid. And if I now press enter, what it's doing is it's sorting on the very first element of the each tuple. So it's sorting on the student ID rather than on the number. Now to fix this problem, there are lots of different ways to try and achieve what we're trying to do, which is to sort on here. And on the internet you'll find lots of different solutions using lambda or to pass in a function to the key argument. But what we're going to do instead is we are just going to reverse how things get added to our list. So if we added the marks in first and then added in the student ID, then it would sort on student ID, and that would be great for us. So let's just turn these around. So all we're doing is spinning these around, saying add the subject marks first and then add the student ID, which is found in 0. So now if we run this, and let's have a look at what's in subject. So this should give us our marks first, which is great. There we go, there's our marks. And now we can just do sorted and pass in subject, or you can run the sort function on subject, which is subject.sort, press enter, and that's great because we now have our list of tuples sorted according to the marks in ascending order. So let's so the other way of doing a sort on this is just to say subject.sort. Okay, so we can do that, or we can use the sorted method. So either of those two will work. And again, we can check this. So if I type in subject now, it should just be automatically sorted in ascending order, which is great. So now the next thing to think about is to make this into a general function so that we can use it for any subject. So once you have a solution working for just one subject, it can be quite straightforward to change it into a general solution for any subject. So let's make this into a function. So we use the def keyword and get subject sorted marks. Okay, and then so I'm just going to tab all of this in to be part of the function. Now this function needs to work very much like this one, where it needs to send me back the sorted array. So let's just say send us back subject, which you have created and added a subject to it and sorted it. And then to make sure that it's a general function, this just returns marks for computer science at the moment, and the thing that determines that they're computer science marks is just this number here, and that just relates to the column number. So we could just say, we could create this function so that it takes an argument, which is just the subject number. Okay, so that's just the column number for the subject. And here, instead of always using for, we can just say, well, just use the subject number that we have given you, that we give you. So let's move this up with our other functions, and then get rid of this space here. And so we'll pick up marks for music. So let's have a variable called music, and we're going to use our get sub-sorted marks, and in here we're going to put the column number where the marks for music are. Let's have a look. We're going to pick up music because it's the last column, and we can run down the list and make sure it works. And so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that should give us the marks for music. And let's run this and have a look at what's in music, in the music list. And there we go, we have a list of tuples with the marks in ascending order. So that's the sort part of the task completed. Let's go through it a couple of times and make sure it works.